Hello, Will.
Hello, Ran.
Philosophy is a way of life. On the surface, it sounds very strange because philosophy seems to be so abstract and life is so concrete. Can you explain a little bit how you see philosophy as a way of life?
Well, philosophy, in the Old Greek, it means a love of wisdom. And that to me is not so abstract, because if you try to become a little bit wiser, then philosophy can be at service and can be helpful. So in that way, I think philosophy has to be a way of life for a philosophical practitioner, because the personal side, the inner side, precedes always the external side. Whatever I can evolve in myself, that I'm allowed to evolve in my clients. So this personal side of taking care of wisdom, loving wisdom, and trying to give it some space in your own life, that's very practical to me.
Can you explain how this translates into everyday life in a concrete way? Let's say that there is a day today. You wake up in the morning. What may happen in the day that expresses the idea that philosophy is a way of life?
Well, philosophy as theology, as all the human sciences, it is just what it is. To me, it's just prolegomena. It is just preparation for life itself. If I go outside there and I watch the lake or I watch the birds, and I hope that all philosophy is gone, that I'm trying to be just what I am in a very simple way. So it's like the Zen proverb, the finger pointing to the moon. Don't take the finger to be the moon, or you will miss the heavenly glory. And so that's with all theory, how beautiful the theory may be and how interested in a specific field we might find things. But in general and for a living, please, for me there's always, don't take the finger to be the moon or you miss that glory. And philosophy, I think it's one of the best way of reflecting about one's life, the European philosophy, but also the other traditions, is if I use it, but using is such a word, it's too pragmatic, but if I transmutate it, if I metabolize it, then philosophy is to me the best way of reflecting on your life and make it more consciously. So in the end, when I'm old later on, everything what was subconscious will become conscious, and philosophy is a very good mate to serve it, I think.
So if I understand you correctly, it's not that if I go out, there is a beautiful lake here. It's not that I start to have theoretical questions about Kant or about Descartes, but rather I look differently at what I see.
I hope that I'm open up always to the mystery of life, and that I know, with all the knowledge we have, we can't add just a single drop of life to life. We are arrogant if we think so. There's a reverence to life, and if you reveal life, then the arrogance of knowing gets its place. We called it in the philosophical tradition the doctor ignorantia. You are so learned that you know you don't know nothing, or you become in the mystery. If you come to me as a client in my philosophical praxis, I can have a lot of theories and I can have a lot of training in different fields, but I open the space, and there can become a connection between you and me, which always will be a mystery. How much I know Aristotle or Hegel or Freud or whatever. And in this encounter there's Logos or the Tao, which if I can good listen and feel and notice, then we become a little bit in a interaction, in a dialectical interaction between you and me. But I honor, I revere this spaciousness, and then I'm there for you.
That's interesting. So you mentioned several concepts. You mentioned openness to the mystery of life and reverence as opposed to the arrogance of knowing, and the capacity to listen, which, if I understand you correctly, are part of the philosophical attitude.
Yes.
What kind of practice, how do I cultivate this philosophical attitude in life? Do I need to read? Does it help to read philosophical literature?
Sure. For me, when I started studying philosophy, I thought I will study the best there is for my own life, to evolve it, to revolve it. It's also revolution now and then. My king has to be put off the throne and a new one has to come on. As I thought about it, I think, well, philosophy is one of the best ways to come into this quality of being. So, of course, you have to read. I think a universal study can be of some help. Sometimes it kills also beautiful things, but if you are intelligent enough, it's a good training. And other sciences like theology or whatever you like, sociology, I studied all those things. It's a good exercise, yeah. And you have to exercise, but I think you have to exercise a lot of things. For instance, exercise. I get a lot of people who come to me and say, "Well, how can I become a good practitioner philosopher? What do I have to read? Binswanger or Heidegger?" And to a lot of people, I would like to say, please go on the market and work there for one day in a week, or go to a discotheque or a prison or a whorehouse, because there you can learn so much about real life. That's for one. And also I think you have to make sure that you yourself are healthy in the best possible way. If I see that Plato says, before a king comes a philosopher or a philosopher king, you have to practice 1 hour a day physical training. I did it. I read it when I was 16, and I think, well, I would like to become such a philosopher as Plato says in his Politeia. And I don't understand why a lot of philosophers don't do 1 hour a day exercises physically. And you can do Tai Chi Chuan or whatever. I have the obligation to be the best what I can be. Every hour again. Completely open and being a therapist, which in Greek means therapeien. I have to be as a servant in the battle of another, and I see what instrument, what weapon can he or she uses now to make their battle better. So I think it's you have to be very sharp, and so only reading scriptures or text doesn't do the thing, and it's...
So the philosophy that you are describing sounds to me very holistic.
Yes.
It is an openness not just in my thoughts, it's an openness in my entire being to the mystery. It's a reverence not just in some specific behavior, it's my entire being, an attitude of acceptance, reverence, of listening. Isn't it very far from the philosophy that we find in the academic world?
Mostly, yes. Mostly, yeah, yes.
I guess I was pushing in this direction, that if the philosophy that you describe, which is a way of life, is quite far from academic philosophy, then is academic philosophy really relevant at all to philosophy as a way of life? I mean, isn't it possible not to study Kant, not to study Descartes?
That's possible, but we are talking now in the context of philosophical practice. Mm-hmm. And I myself I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a Jungian therapist, I'm a hypnotherapist of the school of Erickson. So I did a lot of therapy. And I have to say, I would like to advise everybody to study academical philosophy, because it sharpens your mind, it sharpens insight, it is beautiful opposed ideas in depth, in height. You have this philosopher and another one thinks against it in a beautiful way, and so you sharpen your mind beautifully. And I don't know another faculty which does it this way, with this profound deepness and highness and broadness, everything. So it's really essential that you study for a way of life. I meet a lot of people who did not study philosophy, and which I revere in a way that I think they are master or perhaps grandmaster in just being.
So you mentioned what you would recommend. So can I ask you a more general question by way of ending our interview? By way of summarizing, what would you recommend to a person who says, I listened to וויל in this interview, I like it, I would like to explore philosophy as a way of life as he described it. What would you recommend to such a person to do?
I would say visit me.
Visit you?
And,
okay, good.
And then have a talk, and because it's so, everybody is so differently, and perhaps I could then advise him or her to do this or that. We have a very nice, how do you say it, educational training in Germany. It's a good one, 2 or 3 years. I have a training here for 2 or 3 years. If you want to become a philosophical practitioner, you can do this. But perhaps the thing in Norway also, it's better for you. And perhaps it's so different, Ren. You have to taste the human across you. So,
but I hear that what you are suggesting is.
But if I say we are working with people, professionally working with people, and you have to be the best you can be if you work with another people who comes to you in these delicate matters all the time, then you have to be very well equipped. And so you have to, I think, study philosophy. You have to also study human sciences. I don't agree with a lot of colleagues of mine who say it's pure philosophy. It's nonsense. Philosophy is the mother creates children, beautiful science, psychoneuroimmunology, biogerontology, whatever, oncology, but then the children talk to the mother again, and then the mother becomes more mature, more wise. So integrate all other sciences as well, and do that at the highest standard you can do it, but then let it go. If you meet someone on the market, just be a human being with another human being, or in an encounter in my praxis. Or
Very interesting. But in your last response, you seem to me to suggest that someone who wants to live as in a philosophical life, and also someone who wants to become a practitioner, a good idea is to come to someone, to talk with someone who has experienced.
Sure. I'm practicing now for over 30 years, and I myself, I'm very glad that there are few colleagues who I can call, who I can go to, who I can visit, go to Gerd Achenbach or Nathalie Knapp or perhaps Leon, or my colleague with whom I do the education. We talk a lot. So I know it's very important to mirror yourself and to, it's very...
Thank you very much. Very interesting.